Welcome in, Navigator Nation. It is that time once again. Here we are on Throwback Thursday. My name is Mike Hess. I am joined by social media intern and daughter extraordinaire, Emma. Joining me today, maybe a little bit jealous that Tommy got a minute to shine in the spotlight yesterday. No? No? All right. Well, excellent.
I was hanging out with Janessa yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Having
That's
a good
right.
time.
Getting some good experience, some valuable experience chatting with you folks. She's going to be helping me out with comments and things like that. So make sure you're saying hello in the comments wherever you may be seeing them. We're looking at doing some media together. Many of you may know or suspect at the very least we share a passion for Star Trek and various other sci-fi franchises. So we're looking at maybe doing some things online. And so this is a great experience to, there we go. Oh, almost knocked over the bird of prey there. Can't have that. Great experience to get her some valuable experience in the world of media. So we'll take a quick moment to say hello to Lynn, too, checking in. Our first comment of the day. So if you are new around these parts of ye old internet, I am a respiratory therapist, and I wear so many hats in the COPD community these days.
One of them a cowboy hat?
It is, because I am the COPD dude. I need a cowboy hat. Right now I've got my fancy jacket that I'm not wearing right now, but it's hanging off to the side here for some of the media other media we've got coming up. But
Lip sync for lungs.
Lip sync for lungs. Sometimes we do that. I'm wearing that in some of the explainer videos. That's my official COPD dude jacket. So now I just need a cowboy hat to go with it. So send any cowboy hat suggestions to P.O. Box.
Do you have a P.O. box?
No, I don't. I probably should get one, because then I can be like on a game show where they say, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Price is Right, P.O. Box, whatever, Television City, California. I watched too many game shows when I was a kid. But in any event.
John Linnell says, greetings and salutations.
And Elaine checking in from
Canada.
NB, Canada. New Brunswick. That's right. All I could think of was
Get along, little doggy.
like Northwest Territories, but get along, yeehaw indeed. So we've been doing, I've done a show in various forms or another for about the last 3 years. I've run a group on Facebook called COPD Navigator for 6 years now, trying to bring everybody the information that everybody needs to be your own best advocate as a person living with COPD. As a caregiver for someone living with COPD, and I also want to make sure that we clinicians are getting on the same page as people living with COPD, because we often don't do a great job of that. We misunderstand and make assumptions and all that kind of stuff, and I want to try to avoid that.
Lisa is watching from Colorado.
Well, hello, Lisa from Colorado.
And I think Rose?
Rose from Kansas. Carry on, my wayward commenter. Today we actually have some exciting things, kind of back to our original mission of information. You know, we've kind of developed a lot of entertainment and trying to cheer people up during this all virtually endless pandemic. Also realizing, hey, Brian, welcome. Also realizing, Brian, I should mention, one of our patrons on Patreon, our leading patron right now. So thank you very much for your support. And if you are interested in joining Brian and Jamie and hopefully some others, hit up patreon.com/bestnest. That is our new, we'll be having some of those media ventures coming on Sunday. Coming soon to a Sunday near you. My wife and I are working on some new things to help support a lot of folks living with chronic diseases, chronic conditions. She works in, I'm not boring you, am I?
No, I'm just odd sleep schedule.
No, and it's cold down here, which sometimes makes it a little bit weird, and it has something to do with oxygen. I don't know, but in any event, we're trying to bring a lot of the concepts from COPD Navigator to a broader audience of people living with a variety of conditions. So look for that coming soon. That's where the best nest comes from. But we are also today looking at some actual news events. Today I got in my email this morning our latest updates from I'm a member of the American Association for Respiratory Care, and we got our latest membership section updates. We've got some interesting things to do there. And also, I actually had to put on my clinical hat for a minute and go in and see some folks in the clinic today, which and then went out in the rain and still trying to recover from that with my corona cut here and rain and humidity and everything else going on. So we're just, if it's going to be terrible, it might as well be full on terrible, right? I mean, it just,
It's a bird's nest.
I might as well go full Doc Brown, Back to the Future. Marty!
We have Kay from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. How you doing, Kay? Welcome in. Welcome to House Call. So, when I was at work, I got
We just
a
got a
packet.
letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from.
It's from the NIH.
Woohoo!
From the Learn More, Breathe Better program from the National Institutes of Health. I have a couple of years of experience working with NIH on these kinds of projects. A couple of years ago, we had a grant, or excuse me, a subcontract. We were very specifically told we could not call it an NIH grant. But a subcontract to try to raise some awareness through the Learn More, Breathe Better program for COPD stuff in particular. And we're part of the Breathe Better Network and a couple other things. So I think this is probably related to some of their asthma initiative stuff. But I wanted to, I held on to it so I could share in the fine internet tradition of the unboxing video. I wanted to share what we got from NIH with everybody today.
It's a folder.
It does appear to be a folder. I'll give that to you. Dear Breathe Better Network partner, for more than a decade, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute has led the way for the Learn More, Breathe Better program. And has coordinated the Breathe Better Network. As part of this national collaboration of organizations and programs, you are helping NHLBI raise awareness about lung health at the local level. Thank you for your efforts. Well, I appreciate that. I try to look at the internet as less local and more broad, but I'll take it. Still trying to do stuff locally. This is actually a really nice letterhead, too. Tax dollars at work.
Woohoo!
Recently, we announced the expansion of the Learn More, Breathe Better program to address other lung diseases and conditions in addition to our long-term focus on COPD, which I have mixed feelings about. I mean, I still think COPD can certainly kind of deserve its own specialization, its own focus. However, certainly not all, but a lot of the program or the problems and barriers and everything else that we talk about with COPD are very similar with other chronic conditions: asthma, cystic fibrosis, pulmonary hypertension. We see a lot of the same issues. So I can certainly also see bringing all of these groups together under the same umbrella. So with Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month upon us in May, almost over now, I would like to take this opportunity to share some new asthma resources that are available. So we've got, in this package, we've got a full suite of COPD fact sheets, a full suite of asthma fact sheets, 2 infographics, and info on the National Action Plan. We appreciate all your work in the lung landscape to not only advance our understanding of lung diseases, but also to improve the lives of millions of Americans living with lung disease and those who care for them. Now, I will say I'm really excited, probably disproportionately excited, at that last sentence, living with lung disease and those who care for them. Caregivers always get overlooked, almost always. So I'm really excited that Niall Amory-Riche, the team lead for health education and research dissemination from NHLBI. I have not met her personally. I've been on a couple of conference calls with her. She's done some great work in the subcontractor program. I'm really glad to see she or whoever typed that up acknowledging that. So we've got a nice little folder here from NIH, and let's take a look at some of the infographics. We're going to switch over to camera 2 here real quick, hopefully. Get a little bit closer view. Sorry, we'll have to take Emma out of the picture for just a moment. And actually, we're going to see if we can take a minute to jazz up that picture just a little bit more. Ooh, that's a little hot
saturation.
Hot camera. All right, so I mean, we can just kind of see that the webcam camera just isn't quite as good as the standard camera, but it is what it is. All right, so here we go. First off, we've got, let's look at, we'll take a look at some of the asthma stuff real quick here and get that out of the way. We've got some new,
I assume this is the infographic.
that would appear to be the infographic. We've got some new fact sheets from the Breathe Better Network about the Breathe Better Network. If you want to become a partner, if you happen to represent an organization, or if you start your own organization, healthedu@nhlbi.nih.gov. You can join the Breathe Better Network. Whoop, there we go. That's how you join there. And if you want, you can also send me an email, and I'll see if I can get that forwarded to you.
Charles says this sounds like progress to him.
Yeah, you know, I can't disagree. I mean, like I said, looking at the wrong camera. Like I said, I have mixed feelings about it. I do think it's progress. I think it's good whenever anybody is talking about COPD, whether it's the main focus or a sidecar or whatever it is. I think that it's still appropriate to have it as its own thing, but I guess that's why I don't work for NIH. That's why I'm the COPD dude. I've got some other general info sheets about asthma. Pretty good information here. A couple of nice little graphics to go along with that about how asthma works. Not really an infographic. It's more of a diagram. So we got, you know, the airways under attack. And we also see this with COPD, especially COPD with reactive airways, what we used to call asthma COPD overlap. See some of that going on there. So we've got some good stuff here. We've got a bigger info sheet about monitoring your asthma. And again, you know, this is kind of the same stuff that we see in COPD. Work closely with your healthcare providers, manage your medicines, identify your triggers, and watch for changes. I mean, you could put all kinds of stuff on here. So here is, for those of you who have asthma on top of COPD, this is a thing that we don't use a whole lot, the ATAC, or ATAC, I guess, the Asthma Control Therapy Assessment Questionnaire. So this is how to kind of tell if your reactive airways condition is under control or not. Similar to the asthma control test, I don't know. I mean, we kind of see them go back and forth. Some groups prefer this one. We use the asthma control test. But we're basically looking at, did you miss any work, school, or normal daily activity? Did you wake up at night? Do you believe your asthma is well controlled? Use your inhaler, blah, blah, blah. So some other good tips for control stuff. And again, here is another nice thing that can go for asthma and COPD. Tips for talking with your healthcare provider. And I wish we actually had one of these for healthcare providers that say tips for talking about the people in your care. Because, you know, we forget to not use our 15-letter words or 15-syllable words and all that kind of stuff. So before your appointment, write down symptoms you've had, time or day or night they've occurred, where you were at the time, what you were doing. Make a list of all the medications. Our studio located next to the laundry here. Real high class stuff here. During the appointment with your provider, I want to emphasize this. Speak up. Tell your healthcare provider what you want to achieve by controlling your asthma or COPD better. Always want to speak up, always want to be open, always want to keep it simple. Remind your clinician to keep it simple. So again, these are some really good tips and some sample questions that you can ask. Are you sure it's asthma? That's a good one for the COPD crowd, isn't it? Are you sure it's asthma, or might it be something different? Have you done the proper diagnostic testing? Have you done spirometry? Have you done allergy testing? Do I need other tests? Should I take more medicine? What do I do with all that? So generally good stuff with asthma. And then here is the heralded infographic that you can use to get some statistics about asthma.
I have a question about the infographic.
Yes.
Why do they pick the numbers they choose? Like 7 and 13 is a weird set of numbers.
That's true. I would bet that, let's see, let me do some quick math here on the old the calculator that my teachers always said I would never carry a calculator around with me all the time.
Calculator in your pocket all the time. Guess what? I do.
So, it turns out that 7 divided by 13 is 53.8. So I would bet when they did that survey, they came up with whatever the survey said. It was probably 54%. Said 54% of adults limit their activities.
Oh, and so they converted it into a fraction.
Exactly, because the other ones are a little bit more easy. This 4 and 9 miss school, that's 44%. You know, it's easy to do that one. About 33% of adults, and so then, you know, it's hard to go, well, we've got 44%, or we've got, you know, that number, that number, that number. You know, we got to, just to make it more consistent, I think.
We have somebody from Gloucester. I think that's how you say that.
Gloucester, indeed. Well done. That's the benefits of BritBox. Big fans of the British police procedural, or as we like to call them, the British murder shows.
And Doctor Who.
And Doctor Who. Doctor Who, yes. As a matter of fact, I believe
Gloucester was in the episode with Ruth.
Could be. I believe Kelly is up watching Silent Witness right now. So
Right.
welcome, Pauline. Welcome in. So now the main event is the COPD stuff. It was Asthma Awareness Month. It is Asthma Awareness Month, but our
COPD infographic.
COPD stuff looks like kind of nicer, actually, in certain ways. So we've got pulmonary. Ooh, nice.
Oh, it's in half.
So
No.
here's one.
Much longer.
What can you do about COPD? Take these smart steps. We've got know the basics, which I would like to see a graphic here personally, but you know, you only have so much space, I suppose. Get some background. So we're talking about risk factors. Are or were smokers, but they also emphasize that as many as 1 in 4 with COPD never smoked. So kudos for pointing that out. Long-term exposure to lung irritants, as well as air pollution, chemicals, all that stuff, or have a rare genetic condition called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Interesting to note. What's that?
That one's purple.
That is purple, yes. In what we usually call the developing world or third world or something like that.
We have a question about your hair.
Yes. The hair is the isolation comb through. Yes, I was saying that had to go to work, do some actual work today, and we've got rain and we've got humidity, and so it's been a bit longer than I'm used to it anyway, and plus it's curly and all kinds of stuff going on.
Is your hair curly?
It's wavy. It's wavy, not really curvy. We've got Emma off to the side here, by the way.
Hello.
We're on camera 2 right now if you're just joining us, so we can get a better view of these infographics.
And
info sheets, yes. Notice signs and symptoms, start the conversation, make the most of a doctor's visit, so very similar to what we saw in the asthma handouts. However, it's almost like they were listening to me and just developed it right here. If you're a healthcare provider, here's some tips on how to be a better healthcare provider with your patients. Have information and screening resources available in your office. Encourage a dialogue about symptoms and emphasize that COPD is treatable. You know, that is a great example. I want to give a shout out to, I'm absolutely sure he's not listening right now, but Paul, the medical student. Paul is now, he's a rising.
Is he or Carl the intern?
He's he reminds me of, if anybody has ever watched the cartoon Phineas and Ferb, Paul kind of looks like Carl the intern and works even harder and is even smarter. I mean, one of the most brilliant, dedicated, conscientious, every positive Boy Scout, Girl Scout kind of word you can think of is Paul, now entering his 3rd year of medical school, who's worked with me on a couple of these different projects. One of the first things he said to me when we were first working together, one of the very first things he said to me after I gave him some literature to read, gave him some resources to review and all that stuff, he said, why is it that all of these things always start with there's no cure for COPD? That like removes any hope right off the bat. And it's like, that's a really good point. I think as clinicians, we try to be honest, but I much prefer that, as the NIH is saying here, emphasize that it's treatable. Yes, it's true that there is no cure right now, but we do have some very effective treatments out there. And no, we don't necessarily get everybody up to 100% or where you were before the lung function decline or anything like that, but we can often do a better job than what's going on.
We are here to help.
Yeah, we are here to help. That's right. Hopefully you're satisfied with your care. Also, hello, Karen. Welcome. Better late than never, that's for sure. Wow, and I just gave everybody a little unnecessary zoom here as I shifted around. I got a little too close to the camera.
The unnecessary.
If you didn't think the hair was goofy before, it's definitely goofy now. So,
Are you
COPD,
a goofy goober?
a goofy goober. COPD and vaccines. Let's everybody get vaccinated unless you have a sensitivity of some kind. Here is another one that is, the more you know, the better for you and your loved ones. It's a disease with many different names.
The rainbow.
Oh, the more you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I
There we
got
go.
you. Oh yeah, don't want to give away too many secrets. I'm showing off some of the soundproofing and stuff. As a matter of fact, I've seen it. Not only is this the disease with many different names, I've seen it as a whole bunch of symptoms just unified by. I'll have to look it back up again, but like the only thing that unifies it is some of the symptom descriptions. Like everybody coughs and everybody has a lot of mucus and things like that.
Does everybody hurt?
Sometimes. But yeah, it's the lung disease with many different names. I like that. Could you be at risk for COPD? No, for sure. Get a spirometry test. Like to emphasize high quality spirometry there. Oh, I see. It changes if I put the must be something with the white balance because I actually I get good color when I do that, and then when I go to the
it adjusts.
Can't fix that.
Because if you add a bunch of white, then it throws off the white balance.
Right.
We saw that one time when Christine was filming, and she took off her jacket, and she was super pale, so it threw off the white balance.
And then there was that time where we had that weird yellow filter on our video.
Oh, yeah.
So, now that you know it's COPD, what do you do about it? Here's how to breathe better. First of all, you're not alone. We got from Joe checking in there. Joe, just a blank space where Joe is.
Yeah, sometimes
Taylor Swift there.
Sometimes that happens when he comments something. I've noticed that before.
Could be, yeah.
Yes.
Might just be like a return or something like that. So this is kind of this is a little bit more involved, but this is a thing that you could get in your office if you're a clinician. Here's how to breathe better, quit smoking. Okay, not necessarily that easy, but it does have a couple of nice links to some things on here. Avoid exposure to pollutants, visit your provider, remember that you're not alone. Follow treatment advice, take precautions against the flu and other viruses that shall not be named. Seek support from others who have COPD.
Joe Walsh says, feeling blank.
Feeling blank.
Is that a song reference?
Well, all I can think of is, was it Taylor Swift had that blank space?
Blank space, baby.
So seek support from others who have COPD. I would probably put this up a little bit higher on the list than number 6. But at least they did highlight that you were not alone. See if your local hospital has a COPD support group. You can also find a very active COPD community online.
Like here.
I'm a little disappointed they didn't name us by name. I mean, why didn't they just say you can also find a very active COPD community online called COPD Navigator Discussion Group?
Because this is a national.
What's up with that,
They can't
NIH?
play favorites.
What's up with that?
You can't play favorites.
Family members can be supportive too as you learn to live with and manage your COPD. That one can be a little bit more problematic. There are a lot of times where we as clinicians haven't done a real great job of describing COPD to the general public. So A lot of times it gets to be, why is grandma and grandpa just kind of out of breath all the time? Why don't they want to play?
They're like the wolf. Have you seen those commercials?
Yes.
I don't remember what drug it's for, but...
Well, that's okay, because we don't want to play favorites. The big bad wolf. Starts with a test called spirometry. We've got medications. We've got pulmonary rehab. We've got oxygen. We've got surgery. We've got some stuff about exacerbations.
Surgery to help with COPD?
Yeah, lung volume reduction surgery.
Huh.
Or transplants, lung transplants.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would help. Like Jim from Jim and Mary Nielsen.
Yes.
He has lung transplants.
Exactly. Be prepared when you're talking with your clinician. Have your vital information on hand. And again, clinicians can also be prepared. So this one probably should have come first because this one is think it might be COPD. That probably should have come before, now that you know it's COPD. But again, I didn't pack the envelope. Ooh. And this one actually was put together with the help of the COPD Foundation. So way to go, COPD Foundation. Know what to expect. Bring your questions and a notepad. I actually have had... Where'd it go?
Away.
Oh, here it is. I'm going to say I buried it under all my stuff here. I have been keeping a notepad down here. Again, I told you, big fans of a variety of sci-fi here. This one is repping my Battlestar Galactica fandom.
Woohoo!
To take notes, because I learn a lot from listening to folks and all that stuff too. So I'm not going to go over this one too much because we've talked about this a lot over the past few years. Maybe we can even do a whole show about this. But this is about the COPD National Action Plan, which, full disclosure, I was part of the initial, as was Karen, and I believe John was there.
Are you a big fan of the action plan?
I'm a fan of the action plan. In as much as I think it's a good template. I think we need to be working harder to get the stuff done. I think, well, you know, and it's with like any other volunteer thing. There's so many people, so much needs to be done and not enough people to do it. But
that's fair.
Speaking of that, and speaking of John, if you happen to be interested in trying to do more for COPD, we may have some opportunities through the U.S. COPD Coalition. As it happens, I'm the chair of the membership committee and the membership committee on our board of directors.
I'm the committee.
So if you have some interest in getting involved a little bit more, doesn't necessarily mean you have to travel or anything like that, let me know.
It's your infographic?
Yes, I know. I want to... Oh, it's just one side. Okay. Last but not least, we've got a very solid infographic about... pulmonary rehab.
Woohoo.
Path to breathing better. So your journey begins. We're talking about physical well-being, emotional well-being, nutrition. 2 in 3 patients who participate in pulmonary rehab report positive outcomes. So we get the journey begins. We've got along the way. We've got when the program ends. And hopefully the official program may end, but then you go on to another phase, and it kind of you can do a lot of maintenance stuff. I'm hopeful that we can do better at making the maintenance stuff a little bit more affordable for people as time goes on, but we're not quite there yet. Fingers crossed. That's part of why we do the action plan. So let's go back to our good camera.
Camera 1.
Camera 1.
Hello, camera 1.
So that's our latest thing from the National Institutes of Health, which was pretty cool. If you have any questions about that, or if you want to see something else about that, drop them in the comments, because otherwise we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to grab a little sip here.
Sippy sip.
My latest vice, I shouldn't really be drinking soda, but I've been having this weird craving for Diet Sprite lately, and that's just... That's
how we do things.
That's where we're at, I guess, right now. If I got to have bad hair, I'm going to drink my Diet Sprite.
Baby.
So.
Ooh, you have a message.
What do we got?
Someone texted you.
Oh, okay. So, anonymous comment here. That is a good thing to highlight. Yeah. So we've got we've got this situation with
Voldemort.
the elephant in the room. The novel, well, SARS-CoV-2, because no one ever knows what that is either. So we've got this situation where we've got a lot of folks who are hesitant to go to their clinicians right now. We know that a lot of office visits are down. We know that part of the reason we're doing house call is because we know a lot of clinics were straight up closed for a while. Primary cares were closed. People are really hesitant to go a lot of places. And that has some unintended consequences in and of itself too, because at baseline, a lot of folks with COPD don't really like to go out a lot anyway, because it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of oxygen, a lot of logistics. You got to do planning and all that kind of stuff. And what if this happens? And what if there's a traffic jam and I start running low on oxygen, and so on and so forth. But we also don't want you to be in a position where you're putting off care that you really need, and putting yourself at higher risk. It is admittedly kind of a fine line where you've got to kind of thread that needle a little bit, to mix some metaphors here, to try to figure out the risk and the benefit. And I would encourage anybody who is really feeling like they're having a flare-up, like they're really starting to have some trouble, call your provider. Don't ever hesitate to call, because right now especially, if you can't get in to see your provider in person, we're doing some really good things with telehealth. We're doing some really good things with virtual visits, where we actually have two-way communication, like we're hoping to do probably later. We're going to open the doors later tonight. I haven't really had time to hype it up too much with the holiday week and all that stuff, but we are doing a 6 o'clock ready room, talking about non-pharmacological, non-medication ways to manage symptoms. But we're doing two-way visits, we're doing phone visits and all that stuff. And if you can talk to your provider over the phone, then you can figure out if either A, there's a safe way for you to go into the clinic, B, if you really do need to go to the ER to be seen or something like that, or C, if there's a way where maybe your provider can just send in an order for antibiotics and steroids, kind of a flare pack or something like that. But I encourage everybody to not put off your care because you're concerned about the virus. You should be concerned about it, absolutely, but there are ways around it so that we can get you the vast majority of your care in a very safe way. As I mentioned, I went into the clinic today. We were all wearing masks. We were all maintaining our physical distance. But we still were able, I even, full disclosure, we're doing an oxygen evaluation, making sure somebody, still could get their oxygen qualified. Usually, we do that in the hallway, walking somebody up and down the hallway. That's not real practical, but we were able to just have them walk back and forth in the clinic room, in the exam room, and the room was big enough that we were able to get that done. So, people at this point in the process, we've been able to develop some new protocols and things like that. So please don't put off your care any more than, well, don't put off your care. I'll just leave it at that. So thank you, Anonymous, for
your medical emergency.
Yes, make sure you call and state the nature of your medical emergency. So thank you, Anonymous, for bringing that up. That's an excellent point. This person emphasizes your provider wants to see you. It's okay to go to the hospital. They will take good care of you. Again, we've developed, just like grocery stores and a lot of other places have developed some safer techniques. They've put up the plexiglass shields and things like that. There are ways to get that done now. So if you need care, go get some care.
Your unified chat went away.
Oh yeah, 'cause I don't know why I did that. No idea why I did that. All right, so back to some news. Again, you've got, if you want to get some questions in, we've still got plenty of time for that. As I mentioned, we've got a couple of different things that we saw. Let's see, I'm going to open up a link there, and I'm going to open up this link here. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to actually toot my own profession's horn a little bit here. Where did that go? So there was a recent study that just got published in COPD journal. What is this? The International Journal of COPD? Which COPD is this? That doesn't say. A journal called COPD. And let me open up that the window capture so that you can actually kind of at least see the article that I'm looking at here. Maybe. Wake up. There we go. Okay, we're going to make that just a touch smaller so that we're not blocking. Maybe we can block my bad hair. Maybe. And we'll kind of put that up in the...
You can put it in my corner if you want.
Well, I'll lean this way a little bit. You're doing your nails this way. You're too busy to do my nails, but you're doing your nails. That's cool.
I didn't think your nails were ready to be painted again.
One of them was completely gone.
I didn't know that.
I showed them to you.
I was like half asleep. I can do them. We can have extended house call.
No, because I do want to get a couple of things done before we get into the ready room. But so we've got.
We can do it tomorrow if we come up with nothing for Fitness Friday.
Well, we got to do something for Fitness Friday. It's Fitness Friday. Anyway, looking at understanding the knowledge gap and assessing comfort level among healthcare professionals who provide inhaler education. So, first, the bad news. The overall correct response rate amongst all respondents was only 47%.
That's not even half.
It is not even half. So not even half of the healthcare providers, including internal medicine residents, family medicine residents, pulmonary fellows, respiratory therapists, nursing staff, and pharmacists.
Wait a minute. Some of those people should definitely know how to use inhalers.
Some of them should. Turns out some of them do. Care to guess which group performed the best?
Either the respiratory therapists or the pulmonologist people.
Gotta pick one.
Respiratory therapists.
Hey, that's right. Respiratory therapists had the highest overall correct response rate. 85% of the respiratory therapists out there successfully were able to identify the 15-question multiple choice inhaler knowledge test that was distributed nationwide.
Did you take the test?
I did not. I was not. I just didn't hear about it. So, but that's okay because I know how to do it. So.
Well, I know you know how to do it because you showed me how to do it last week.
That's right. So, really excited that I am excited that respiratory therapists scored so high because, like I said, we know that a lot of folks are having difficulty with it because this gets into some of the medical education kind of aspects of it. We're not doing a good job of teaching people how to use the things. I am very proud that one of the things that I do when I have internal medicine residents, I have family medicine residents. I have a lot of folks who follow me for at least a half a day, and they. You could be a little less obvious.
Sorry.
They get a full session on how to use a lot of our devices. At the very least, they get demonstrations with the meter dose inhaler, and they get peak flow testing with my other gadget that must have left off to the side here, probably buried under. Yeah.
Is that the electric one that we used?
No. Well, I mean, I do use that, but I also use this one a lot.
We use that one too.
Yeah, because this is. Well, it's misaligned. I just got to fix that a little bit. So they get some education on that whenever they're with me. So I hope I look at myself as part of the solution, but I know that even what I do isn't sufficient because a half day isn't enough. Bet they would follow you for longer if you had the boss on more. Perhaps. They get assigned to me, but usually they have a pretty good time. But I also, one of the things I've learned about medical education is we load the residents up with so much stuff. It's impossible for it's the same conundrum we face with patients. Quite frankly, we pick the absolute worst times to try to teach when people are in the ER, when people are getting ready for discharge, and they've got 8 other people coming in to talk to them. That's when we try to teach them how to use an inhaler. And that's kind of when we teach Oh, the yes, absolutely. But in any event, we pick the worst times to teach people anything. So hopefully we can fix that a little bit more, and hopefully we can use respiratory therapists to do that, because turns out when it comes to inhalers, we actually know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers.
Interestingly enough, we've also got a surprise disparity. We can look at. Sorry for touching my face so much there. I did wash my hands before I came down, so I am trying to be safe. What we do see is that the correct response rate for various inhaler devices did vary. 55% with meter dose inhalers, 52% with dry powder inhalers, and only 34% with soft mist inhalers. I'm a little bit surprised by that. The soft mist inhaler being the Respimat, which I find easy. Well, I find it easy to do if you have the strain. I mean, it's that whole knowing the path, walking the path thing. It's easy to know. It's an easy path, but it's difficult to do sometimes just because of the hand strength and things like that. But it's turn, open, press, basically.
Does not taste very good.
Does not taste very good, no. So I find it strange, but it could also be that this is the newest type of inhaler on the market, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But that actually is interesting information for a meeting I have later this evening, so I'm going to make sure and bookmark that. Another thing I wanted to point out is this. Now, this comes out in Thorax. This is a little bit pre-press right here, but one of the British medical journals called Thorax specializes in respiratory stuff. Energy conservation technique improves dyspnea when patients with severe COPD climb stairs. So basically what they had 22 patients, 22 people with severe. How did they classify severe? This is just the extract that we've got going on. Oh, probably because it's pre-pressed. So, 22 folks with severe COPD climbed 6 flights of stairs for a total of 108 stairs. Climbed it twice. First off, they just climbed at their own pace, and then they also climbed it where you rested you took 3 steps and then rested for at least 5 seconds after every 3 steps. And they found that significantly lower dyspnea, lowered leg discomfort, minute ventilation, which is how much air you're moving, your respiratory volume times your respiratory rate, and capillary blood lactate, which is a measure of muscle use. All of that were lower with when you rested for 5 seconds after every 3 steps, with no change in total task time. So it took the same amount of time to climb the stairs if you were going your own pace or if you stopped for at least 5 seconds after every 3 steps. I think that's interesting. I think that's a really interesting potential technique to use with a lot of folks. Potentially a new teaching technique, because it's not going to waste any more time or take any more time, but can lead to some better rest. So, a couple more articles to go through. Again, we've got probably about 10 minutes left here. So if you've got more questions about any of the topics we're covering today or topics in general, make sure you're getting them in whichever way the comment box sits in your view. I feel like a flight attendant now. Yeah, remember when we used to fly on airplanes and stuff? What a time. So this one, this was interesting. This has some, this is technically about the elephant, but it does have some interesting potential connotations for care in general. So we're looking at early pulmonary rehab for SARS-CoV-2 pneumonia experience from an intensive care unit outside of Hubei province in China, which was kind of the epicenter of this whole deal. And they found that, so this is a letter to the editor. This was a relatively small trial, looks like maybe even only 1 person. But they did find that you can do pulmonary rehab other than routine pulmonary support. So what we did here, we had, let's see, what did they do? Patient was supported with 11 days of being on the ventilator and 9 days of ECMO, which was quite a big deal. And then after they got off of that, they did ICU rehab right in the hospital, where they did postural changes, which is, flipping people over and all that kind of stuff. Respiratory training, respiratory muscle strength training, and stuff like that. Early mobilization and physical exercise, which helped avoid some of the weakness, the ICU acquired weakness. Helped muscle strength, diaphragmatic muscle strength. They started exercising on the bed, then moved into a chair, and then assisted walking, and then a self-walking, and then sleep promotion and psychological interventions. So could have potential ramifications for everybody who might be receiving any kind of pulmonary rehab, spends any time in the ICU, might be getting a little bit better deal there.
Karen has a question regarding the previous article.
Yes, so this is the stair climbing article.
It says, I would assume that the patients who went on their own pace slowed way down if they didn't rest.
I would imagine, and I think that's probably why the total task time didn't really change, because you start out really. I mean, I have not had lung problems, but I've been heavy, and I know if I get going on the stairs, I start out really good, and then it's like, whew, now I got to stop for like 5 minutes because I'm out of breath. So I imagine just having that paced, disciplined pause makes up for a lot of that, and so since it's not really adding any time, but it's still improving your dyspnea, your shortness of breath. I think that's probably. I think Karen's point is absolutely right on, but I think that this is something that we should look at as probably teaching as a new, adaptation technique. Like I said before, when we're looking at the NIH stuff, we can't necessarily get you back to 100%. We can't really. That's one of the issues I have with the whole phrase of pulmonary rehab, because we're not getting you back to a place. We're making you better, but it needs to be an ongoing process. But this could be a good technique of teaching you adaptation. This is the new normal, to use an overused phrase, but yeah. And Jamie, welcome in, another one of our Patreon supporters. So welcome and thank you. And yes, I thought that was pretty interesting too. So so here we go. This is another one that came out. This is healthcare utilization after a first hospitalization for COPD. So this was let's see. I want to go back for a second here. Where did this one come from? Oh, I think this one came from the management section. Anyway. So this was looking at 4 different types of COPD, folks. And actually, I'm going to go back to my original email because there was a better summary of that.
17,000 emails?
Well, I'm running low on storage space, as it happens. I don't delete them. I never had to worry about it before. So we've got this idea of care trajectories. So we've got... this was a Canadian study 1 year after being first hospitalized for COPD. This was 2,500 patients aged 40 to 84, starting in 2013 and then going for a few years after that. And they identified 5. This was another way of phenotyping stuff here. So how is that coming? Let's see. How's that coming through on the... Not great. I gotta change if I maybe make that a little bit wider. There we go. Yeah, and then I can make it smaller so I can not have to bob and weave so much. So we've got, and boom, there we go. So we've got type 1 patients who made up about half the group and had relatively low healthcare use. Type 2 made up 29% moderate healthcare use. Type 3 made up 8.4% and had high utilization, mainly for respiratory reasons. So this group had the highest number of inpatient hospital days. Were seen by pulmonologists and respiratory therapists in primary care settings. Remember, this is Canada, so it's a little bit different. I know if Shar was on from Canada, she would tell me that in her area they're still not doing a lot with RTs in primary care, but it's arguably a little bit better than it is in the U.S. Type 4 made up about 4% and had high healthcare use, mainly heart-related stuff, mostly seen in the ER. and then mostly seen in nurses and community-based primary care. And then we had type 5, who had high healthcare use, lots of other stuff going on. So these are what we would normally call your high comorbidity folks. These are a lot of folks who are going to the doctor, going to your provider for diabetes or, non-lung heart stuff. The 3 highest utilization care types were older, had more comorbidities, and more severe condition at the index hospitalization. So again, the longer we put off identification and diagnosis, the more utilization you're going to have as time goes on. So the authors believe these findings offer real-world data on what happens to COPD patients after an initial hospitalization could support data-driven decision-making on their health. This was in BMC Health Services Research. It's another one of the British medical journals, I believe. So basically, and let's see, we've got the sequence analysis. So we've got lots of plots and graphs and stuff like that. But the biggest takeaway is here, this is another way to look at categorizing folks with COPD to try to figure out who's at highest risk for going into the hospital, and who is, and to further strengthen the idea that we need to do a better job of earlier diagnosis and earlier improved care management. So that takes us a bit past 5 o'clock. That's kind of interesting to share some actual news with everybody. We haven't had a lot of research lately. It's been really quiet with a lot of the other stuff that's been going on. I've been talking with some other folks who are basically like, yeah, if you're not publishing on the elephant in the room, you're not publishing right now. So but we do know that there are other things happening out there. There's COPD, there's asthma, there's all this other stuff going on. So it's kind of nice to be able to share some of that information. Speaking of sharing information, a couple other items of note. We've got at 6 o'clock, we are, like I said, I'm at least going to open the doors. I haven't really had time to promote it much, so we'll see if anybody shows up. But if 6 o'clock, if you're interested, at 6 o'clock, we'll be doing another COPD Navigator Ready Room, one of our Zoom conferences. You can go get the information. Actually, I can give me a moment here. I'll just paste it right here in the various chats and everything. Or you can go to our Facebook page and get that going here. Did make a couple of changes to the website. Forgot to add the Zoom meetings on there, but I am proud to have put on there a couple of our Friends of Navigator programs. We've got a link to Right to Breathe. We've been trying to coordinate a lot of stuff with Right to Breathe lately, so I'm glad to put a link to their website and a short description on there. Also, oh, that's the wrong, I can't do that. Well, I can do this. Well, because it's the different computer. I've got the broadcast computer and the monitor computer. TPS, that's the wrong keyboard. COPD Breathe Strong USA from Bob Sepkoviak, Right to Breathe from Joe Morrison, of course, and then a link to the COPD Foundation. So always happy to do some promotion of other people in the COPD space, because there just aren't enough of our voices getting out there, and the more voices we have, the more folks will listen. So 855-4444-62576.
Jim Bart says, thanks, Mike.
So this coming through in various places right now are some links to our Navigator Ready Room coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Ta-da. Also, I'm going to try a couple of fun things next week. Monday,
Hooray, fun.
Monday also on Zoom. That's the wrong clicky thing. Monday on Zoom, we're going to be doing our very first. I took it upstairs. I can't play it right now. Our very first harmonicas virtual group. Many of you know, if you've watched the Wednesday show at all, we do Harmonica Wednesday, and we play harmonicas for health starting from
No, you could do Musical Monday.
Could do Musical Monday. Maybe we'll switch things up a little bit. I kind of like, you don't like Wednesday?
You were looking for the alliteration.
Musical Monday is probably a good way to go, though. So we're gonna do that in a couple of different aspects. So look for a Zoom link on that coming up in the next day or so. Basically, we're just going to get together and we're going to try to do what would normally be a Harmonicas for Health support group. We're just going to try and do it online. So we'll see if it works, and if it does, hoorah. Because that will be a great thing going forward, even outside of a pandemic, even outside of quarantines and all that stuff, because some folks, again, it's just difficult to get out of the house sometimes. So we're going to try that. And then on Thursday, we are going to have our very first purely social function. We are going to, I've got a couple of online games that we can set up where all you need is a device. You can access it through the internet, so you can play on your phone, you can play on a computer.
Are you gonna do Jackbox games?
We're gonna do some. We're gonna do some Jackbox games. Yeah.
Nice.
We're gonna try and do. There are a couple of. I don't know if we'll. There are. There's a series of games called Jackbox, where they have just some fun brain teaser stuff where you make up a new word and a new definition for it. You make up some jokes and not strictly like trivia kind of things, but we just have a little bit of fun with it. So we're going to try that and see if those work, and just again have some fun, because I know it's hard to get social these days when we're social from a distance. And we're going to try it. We're going to see if it works. We're going to throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see if it works, because a lot of these things are going to be helpful after we move on from the quarantine, because even on an average day, folks with COPD sometimes, as I've said a couple of times, just want to be able to participate from home and not feel so alone, but also not have to deal with all the logistics of getting around. So we're going to see if it works. We're going to give it a try, and we're going to watch Emma bite her fingernails a little bit.
Yep.
Humanity at its finest, folks. We are all human. We are all flawed. We all have our stuff going on. So that's why Navigator has been and always shall be a safe space to have some fun and to be human and to be normal, or normal-ish.
Ish.
So all that said, we gotta get ready for see if anybody's gonna show up to the ready room in a little while. Stop by if you have a chance. If not, be ready for Monday. We'll do harmonicas, and next week we're gonna have some fun. So, and then we will be back tomorrow. Not gonna be able to be outside tomorrow. Forecast is for quite a bit of rain through today and tomorrow.
Lots of rain.
Donna, new here, welcome. Coming in at the tail end, or hopefully you've enjoyed most of the show, part of the show. But glad you're here. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow all these things. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, big stretch. Join us. Hey, Pat, how you doing? Come back around 6 o'clock or so, and we'll see about some Ready Room. Like, share, subscribe, all this stuff. Again, we've got to amplify each other's voices. If you have other links that you would like me to get up on the Navigator page, send them to me, either via message or in one of the comments around here, or via email, breathetv@copdnavigator.net, or on Twitter, or many other places. Not hard to find. Get me some links, get me some information. We'll make sure we get them online for you. So with that, hope everybody is continuing to have a great day. Hope you have a great evening. Hope you're staying dry if you're in the path of some of the unending rain that we're in.
Woohoo!
Hope you are staying strong and staying safe, likely staying at home, and I hope you are continuing to breathe lightly. So until 6 o'clock or until tomorrow, I hope you all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.